Bonjour, Émilie Talpin, OM System Ambassador in the US. Welcome back to the channel. Today, let's talk about how to set up your OM-5 for macro photography because, it is the season. This request actually came from one of you who asked me last week to please make a video about what the settings are to use your OM-5 when you are doing macro photography. I have to admit that I mostly use my OM-1 Mark II right now to do some macro photography. It's been so fun being out every day and taking photos of all the insects around the flower. My favorite insect is actually the hoverfly. I love those guys. But if you don't have the OM-1 Mark II, well, honestly, the OM-5 is a fantastic camera, and that might be all you need. I also photograph with the 90mm macro, but the 60mm macro is amazing. There's a little trick here. If you want to stay at 1:1, this is what you do, and I'll show you my setup. So once you've done that and you are in manual focusing, you don't have to worry about it. If you are not in manual focus and you press the button, well, you are gonna get out of the 1:1. So that's a little trick. It's something to keep in mind. And maybe you don't want to be at a true macro. Maybe it's fine if you are not at a 1:1 ratio, and that's okay. Whatever works for your photo. So here is how I set up my OM-5 for macro photography. You know that with OM system cameras, you can actually change some of those buttons and reprogram them so that they will serve a good purpose, whatever purpose you need them to serve when you're doing macro photography. So this is what I would recommend if you want to set up your OM-5 for macro photography. First, you need to click on the OK button. The OK button is basically the button that everybody should know. I actually made a video last week about it. If you want to know more, just click here and you'll be able to rewatch this video. But what the OK button does is that it sends you to the super control panel and you have all the information that you need. Sure, there are things that you don't have to set up directly on the control panel. So for example, here, this is my shutter speed. This dial is my shutter speed. This dial is my aperture. So for macro photography, I will put my shutter speed at 1/60th, 1/100 of a second because I don't care about my shutter speed. I have a flash and I'm going to be able to freeze my subject. So that's enough. Then my ISO is 200. Why? Because again, I use a flash. I use the FL700 and then I don't have to care about my ISO. I can keep it low. 200 is what OM system recommends. That's why I use 200. And then what I do, so for aperture is my aperture, I'm gonna take only one shot. I'm not gonna do focus stacking for most of the subject because most of my subject are moving. They have antennas. And so it's gonna be very hard for me to focus stack those subjects because I like to go and shoot not just early in the morning, later on, because there are always subjects and they might be doing some really cool things and I don't want to miss that. Sure, going out and shooting early in the morning when the insects are still not awake, they're a little bit frozen, then yes, you can focus stack. But in some of the conditions that I'm in, then I can't. And so that's why I'm going to make sure that for this video, especially if you're a beginner, you start the easy way, meaning you're gonna just take one shot and you don't have to worry about too many things. So put your aperture at the f16, f18. After all, why not f22? Whatever it takes for you to get a shot. So your aperture will decide what is in focus. So that's why I recommend moving your aperture to a f16. And so your shot will be a better shot because you will have more of your subject in focus. Remember macro photography, we don't have that much in focus. And now some of you might say, well, I don't shoot with a flash. So then yes, your settings are going to be a little bit different. If you're a beginner, I highly recommend that you try a flash and a diffuser. And flash doesn't have to be complicated. I actually made a video right here. Hopefully that will help you. Put your flash in TTL, meaning that your flash and your camera will talk to each other and decide what should be the power compared to your settings. So it will do all the work for you. Now, a couple of other things that I changed on my OM-5. If I press on the OK button, then what I want is I want to make sure that right here I am on single, and make sure that you're not using the little heart because that's not going to work with your flash. So you just want that one single frame. You want to make sure that any subject detection is off, and I use MF, manual focusing, and the way I focus is by moving back and forth to acquire focus. Now, a button that is very, very useful on your control panel, it's the clock. If you go to the clock, you press on OK, then you can see here that I changed a couple of buttons. So the first one that I changed is the AEL. So the AEL, I use it as a boost mode. So that's the difference between no boost and boost. Why do I use that? Because I need to be able to focus, to see what I'm focusing on. If I have my flash, well, my camera is going to be like, those are what you are telling me for your exposure triangle, and it's going to be too dark. And it's right, but my flash is connected. My flash is going to do the job, so I have a correct exposure. But I still need to be able to see what I'm photographing. That's why I recommend that you use the boost mode. So now you can see as if it was the photo at the end, or close to the photo that you will get at the end. So a very important button to have access directly, like at the press of the button, I'm using my flash, I need to be able to see what I'm photographing. Another thing that I like to change is this button, so the plus minus, your exposure compensation. I personally do not use it, so I have it on bracketing. And bracketing, it's actually, I set it up so once you put your bracketing, you actually want to go to the menu, and on your menu, it's menu 2 with the little camera and the number 2. You go to bracketing, you see that it's on, and then you see the focus bracketing, it's on. I can go up to 8 shots, and that's usually what I use. It works super well. Your camera does the work for you. Stack those 8 images, put them together, and it's going to give you a JPEG result. And people are going to tell you JPEG is not good. Don't believe all the hype. JPEG is actually enough. I had a photo that was published in a French magazine, a science magazine for kids. JPEG, no problem. So you can actually do quite a lot with a JPEG. Even you can get published with a JPEG. So if you want to use focus stacking, you want to make sure that you put it on in your menu ahead of time, right? So now if I press on the exposure compensation, I'm going to go directly into focus stacking. And then the last button that I reprogram is this little button right here by your lens, and this one is for focus peaking. So if I'm not sure if I have the right focus, then I can just press on it, and now I will see there's going to be some red that's going to show me exactly what's in focus or not in focus. Because remember, I'm moving back and forth, so having that little button is extra. If I'm not 100% sure, just click on it, and then I can see that red and where it's moving, and know that my subject, the focus is where I want it to be on my subject. So that's it. It's pretty simple. Those are the changes that I make when I shoot with my OM-5 and I do macro photography, and you see I'm on M. You could actually save that setting on your C, right? So that if you're doing something else and your M setting is completely different because you're doing landscape, then you could move very fast to the C and then be back into macro mode. Actually, I'm going to show you how to do that. That's a plus for this video. So what you need to do is you switch on your camera, you go to the menu, and then you are gonna go to the first menu, so camera 1, and then reset custom modes. I'm gonna click on it, and then I'm gonna assign to custom mode. So I go down and then the arrow, and I'm gonna do custom mode C, and again the arrow, and I'm gonna click now on OK for set. So now if I go to the C, I have all the settings that is now recorded for my macro photography. And then if I go to M and I change things, it doesn't matter because I can just go back very fast and then do macro photography with my C settings. So having custom settings, it's very nice. It's something that I recommend doing because it's going to save you a little bit of time. Now, I hope this video was informative and you are ready to now go out with your OM-5 and take some amazing macro, because with this setup, trust me, you can. I was actually out this morning and those are the photos that I took. I had a really nice jumping spider who gave me a little bit of a show, so I was able to photograph it. And then I spent a lot of time with wasps and bees, and those are the photos that I made with the OM-5 and with the 60mm macro. That shows that you don't need to have the top of the line to just go out and photograph and have fun, right? Whatever your budget is, there is a solution to get some great images. And the most important is to spend some time with your camera, going outside and creating photos and getting used to your new gear, or maybe to your old gear but you've never done macro before. So I can't wait to see what you will photograph. Make sure that you tag me so I can see what you're taking for photos, and I always love to see what everybody is doing. And I want to thank you again for being a subscriber. If you are not a subscriber, it's never too late. Click on the like, click on the subscribe button, and click on the bell so you know when my videos are coming out. And I will see you next Sunday. Until then, happy shooting! Au revoir!